Hello, my name's Charlie Nicklin. This is video 2 in our 5-part series on achieving professional registration. You can see a full breakdown of the content of each video at the start of video 1, along with an overview of the whole process. In this video, I'll talk in more detail about the application process, educational requirements and competencies. I'll also cover the different routes available depending on your background, qualifications and experience. So how do you actually complete an application for professional registration? Well, let's take a look. The first step is to contact us here at IAgrE. If you provide us with a copy of your CV, we can advise on the most appropriate level and the best route to follow. For the 3 grades, there are 2 routes. The standard route is for those with recognised qualifications. If you don't have a recognised or even any applicable qualifications, then we would point you down the individual route, which I'll cover in video 4. Recognised qualifications are those that have been approved or accredited by either us or another engineering institution. This means that a professional body, such as IAgrE, has gone into the provider and we've been through the syllabus in more detail. Our assessment ensures that the underpinning knowledge and learning delivers the necessary learning outcomes to meet the requirements laid down by the Engineering Council. We will have looked at the examination process, the course assessment methods, we will have assessed the staff, and we will have inspected the facilities to ensure that they are capable of delivering the qualification. The process is rigorous. It ensures that the qualifications meets the academic standards required for the different registration grades. Now, just because you haven't followed a recognised course, it doesn't mean that your qualification is lacking. It just means it's unknown as to whether it meets the Engineering Council standards. Because of this, we need to assess your qualification on an individual basis to ensure it meets the necessary criteria. If you don't have any applicable qualifications, then we have to assess that all-important underpinning knowledge and learning that you need to have attained through your career. We need to ensure that you've acquired this to a level commensurate with someone who's followed a recognised course. Both these routes then lead on to the competency assessment. I'll talk about this a little later, so let's look at the recognised qualification route first. You'll need to be a member of IAgrE, and for the purposes of this video, I'll assume you've already done that bit. Once we've had sight of your CV, we will know what level you're eligible for from the qualifications you've attained. So for EngTech, you need to have attained a minimum of a recognised level 3 in engineering, such as a BTEC National Diploma or a modern apprenticeship. For the purpose of this video, the levels I referred to are the qualification framework levels for England, Wales and Northern Ireland. The Scottish and Irish levels do differ slightly. It's worth pointing out that your qualifications don't have to be in agricultural or land-based engineering, but they do need to be a recognised engineering course. We can tell you straight away if your course is recognised from the Engineering Council's database. It's also worth noting that the first 2 years of an accredited degree will also qualify you for EngTech. We do encourage undergraduates to get on the registration ladder with EngTech, which they can use as a stepping stone to a higher grade as they gain experience. EngTech is a good thing to have on your CV when you start looking for employment following graduation. As we move up the grades, we then have iEng, where the requirement is for a level 6 qualification, such as a bachelor's degree, like a BEng. And then we have CEng, where the requirement is for a master's degree, such as an MEng at level 7. Now, unfortunately, there are some peculiarities with the requirements, in that some of the older degrees have a higher weighting. For example, a bachelor's degree from before 2000 is acceptable for CEng. It doesn't matter which level you're going for, competence is a key requirement. A document you need to familiarise yourself with is the UK Standard for Professional Engineering Competence, or UK SPEC for short. This is a very well laid out document that gives you lots of useful information about the registration process and the requirements. The document can be downloaded from the Engineering Council's website. When you take a look at the document, you'll see that for each of the levels, EngTech through to CEng, is a list of competencies, A through to E, which are subdivided again into the requirements with examples shown alongside. Behind me, you can see the IAgrE Competency A and its requirements as an example. Using the electronic forms we provide you, what we ask you to do is map the skills and experience you have gained through your career to each of the 15 requirements for EngTech or 17 for iEng and CEng. We don't expect reams of paperwork, but we do want to see well thought out, concise examples of how you meet each competency in turn, which is going to be 200 to 300 words or more. It's often useful to have a mentor to support your application, as I mentioned in the main registration video. I'll cover more about filling in the competency statement in a separate video. For a standard route application, we will need the following documents from you. A completed IAgrE application form with a named proposer, that could be your line manager, an up-to-date CV, the competence statement mapped to UK spec using our template, a list of recent CPD for the last 2 years, for example, copies of your qualifications, certificates, and finally the relevant fees, which are shown on the IAgrE website. Once we have all that, we will check it for completeness, and if acceptable, we will send it off to 2 appropriate assessors for review. Once our assessors have done their review, they report back to the membership committee, which meets every 2 months. The assessors' reviews are discussed by the team and a decision made on either to progress or reject. We wouldn't want you to be unsuccessful in your application, so through the early part of the process, we try and make sure your submission will meet the criteria. We do, however, have marginal applications where the assessors don't agree or don't feel it's at the right level, and will feed back accordingly on what you need to do going forwards. If the initial review is acceptable and the committee agrees, then the next part of the process can start. For EngTech, if the committee is in agreement, then the registration is granted. The Engineering Council and the applicant are informed. For iEng and CEng, there is another step in the process, the Professional Review Interview, or PRI as we call it. Occasionally, a PRI is also needed for EngTech, but it's not normally the case. The time and date for the PRI will be agreed with you and the 2 assessors. The PRI is very similar to a job interview, and you can expect to talk through your CV and your application. You won't be grilled as many people think, but you will be questioned in more detail about your career and what you've learnt and how you've applied it to work projects. The interview itself lasts about 60 minutes and can be face-to-face or online. In terms of preparation, I'll cover that in the final video. The PRI detail will be kept confidential to you and your assessors, as you'll be likely discussing work projects. After the interview, assessors once again feed back to the membership team, who at the bi-monthly meeting make the final decision. Once made, the Engineering Council and you are informed that the process is complete. Now, I mentioned at the start there were 2 routes. We'll now look at the individual route. If you don't possess accredited or recognised qualifications, or indeed any qualifications, this doesn't stop you becoming a registered engineer. Gaining registration would actually be a more significant milestone, as it's formally recognising what you've achieved through your career. You could also choose to go for registration grade higher than the qualifications make you eligible for, as you've continued to acquire significant underpinning knowledge. This is where the individual route comes in. The individual route simply has an extra assessment step at the start of the process, where our assessors review relevant learning that you've acquired, whether they are formal qualifications in a different subject, or employment training, self-directed learning, or experiential learning. This process is the same for EngTech through to Chartered Engineer, and does require an extra document filling in. Knowledge and competency are 2 different things. For example, you may be competent at towing a trailer, but you haven't ever received any formal training. And vice versa, you may have the theoretical knowledge of how to tow, but you aren't yet competent. The individual route assessment form allows you to provide evidence of what you have done through your career to gain the underpinning knowledge and understanding of engineering to a similar level to that of someone who has received formal training. There are 5 key areas that are explored: science and maths, engineering analysis, design and innovation, engineering society, and engineering practice. These are subdivided into specific requirements or learning outcomes that need to be met for each of the different registration levels. What we ask you to do is put down the evidence of what you've done to meet this criteria. This may be as simple as showing a transcript of a training module you completed. It may be a work activity where you've had to research and learn about how to do a task before you started to do it. You may have had a mentor guide you. It's likely you will need to draw from a variety of sources to support the application. I'll cover more about the detail that goes into an individual route assessment in the 4th video. Once you have completed this assessment, it is reviewed by the 2 assessors. If the assessors are happy, it meets the criteria, then you follow on as described earlier with the competency statement, and then interview if required. In some circumstances, we may ask you to attend an interview to go through your career learning, but this is generally not the case. So now you have a good idea on how to complete an application to become a registered engineer. If you have any questions, then get in touch with us at membership@IAgrE.org or give us a call on 01234 750 876. Thank you. Bye-bye.